Texas is booming. People are moving here from every corner of the country. California, New York, Illinois, you name it. And for good reason. No state income tax, affordable housing, strong job market, big open spaces. The Lone Star State has a lot going for it. But not all of Texas is the promised land. There are towns and cities in this state that'll eat you alive if you're not careful. Places where the economy dried up, the crime took over, or the infrastructure just gave out. Some of these places look fine on paper until you actually move there and realize why the rent was so cheap. Today, we are counting down 10 places in Texas you should never move to. This is not about bashing these communities. Real people live here and they're doing their best. But if you are relocating to Texas in 2026 and you're trying to figure out where to go, you need to know where not to go. Let us get into it. Killeen is a city of about 156,000 people in central Texas. It's right next to Fort Cavazos, formerly known as Fort Hood, one of the largest military installations in the world. And that relationship with the base defines everything about this city, for better and for worse. On the surface, Killeen should work. It has a built-in economy thanks to the military. There is always a population base. Housing is affordable with a median home price around $200,000. But the reality of living in Killeen is very different from what the numbers suggest. The crime rate is a major issue. Violent crime in Killeen runs about 83% higher than the state average. Property crime is rampant. Car break-ins, theft, home burglaries. Residents deal with it constantly. Parts of the city, particularly the areas closest to the base, have a transient feel. Soldiers rotate in and out every few years. Landlords know this, and a lot of the rental housing is poorly maintained because there is always a new tenant coming through who does not have time to complain. The city itself does not have much going on. There's a mall that has seen better days, a few chain restaurants, but if you want culture, entertainment, nightlife, or anything beyond the basics, you are driving 45 minutes to Austin or an hour to Waco. Killeen is the kind of city where you can afford to live, but you cannot really afford to enjoy living, and for a lot of people, that is a deal breaker. The relationship with Fort Cavazos has also brought darker headlines. The base has been at the center of multiple high-profile cases, including the disappearance and murder of specialist Vanessa Guillen in 2020, which brought national attention to the problems at the installation. That incident did not happen in Killeen directly, but it cast a shadow over the entire area that is not fully lifted. If you are in the military and stationed at Fort Cavazos, you do not have a choice. But if you are a civilian choosing where to live in Texas, there are far better options than Killeen. And if you know what I mean, stick around and subscribe, because the next 9 cities on this list make Killeen look like a dream. Odessa is in the Permian Basin in West Texas. Population around 115,000, and the entire identity of this city rises and falls with one thing: oil. When oil prices are high, Odessa booms. Money flows in, jobs are everywhere, trucks are lined up on every highway, hotels are full, restaurants are packed, workers are making 6 figures without a college degree. It feels like a gold rush. When oil prices drop, Odessa collapses. Businesses close, workers leave, entire neighborhoods go quiet. The cycle has repeated over and over for decades, and it makes Odessa one of the most unstable places to build a life in Texas. The crime rate reflects that instability. Odessa consistently ranks among the most dangerous mid-sized cities in the state. Substance abuse is a serious problem here. Drug-related crime drives a lot of the violence. Property crime is well above the state average. The landscape does not help. West Texas is flat, brown, dry, and windy. There are no trees, no hills, no rivers, no lakes nearby. The summer temperatures regularly hit 105 degrees. The wind blows dust across everything. If you are coming from literally anywhere with greenery, Odessa is going to feel like you moved to Mars. The city has tried to diversify its economy, but oil still dominates everything. The University of Texas Permian Basin is here, and it brings some stability, but not enough to offset the boom-bust cycle that controls the town. Housing is cheap during the busts and absurdly expensive during the booms.
Workers during the last oil boom were paying $2,000 a month for a one-bedroom apartment in a city that normally rents for $800. That kind of volatility makes it nearly impossible to plan your finances. Odessa is a place where you can make a lot of money fast, but it is also a place where you can lose everything just as fast. If you are not in the oil business, there's almost no reason to be here.
Beaumont is a city of about 117,000 people in southeast Texas, roughly 90 minutes east of Houston on Interstate 10. And if you look at the crime data, Beaumont is one of the most dangerous cities in the entire state. The violent crime rate here is over 3 times the national average. Aggravated assaults, robberies, and gun violence are persistent problems. The police department has been working on it, but the numbers have been stubbornly high for years. But crime is not the only issue. Beaumont sits right in Hurricane Alley. This part of the Texas Gulf Coast gets hit hard and often. Hurricane Harvey in 2017 dumped over 60 inches of rain on parts of southeast Texas. Beaumont's water system failed completely during the storm. The entire city lost running water for days. Roads were flooded, homes were destroyed, thousands of people were displaced. And Harvey was not a one-time event. Tropical storms and hurricanes threaten this area every single year from June through November. If you live in Beaumont, flooding is not a possibility, it is an inevitability. The economy is tied to the petrochemical industry. Refineries line the highways around Beaumont and Port Arthur. That means jobs, but it also means air quality concerns. The region has some of the highest industrial emissions in the state. For people with respiratory issues, this is not an ideal environment. The poverty rate in Beaumont is significantly above the state average. Median household income is low. The housing is cheap, but you get what you pay for. A lot of the housing stock is old, poorly maintained, and in flood-prone areas. Infrastructure across the city has been deteriorating for years, and the tax base is not strong enough to fund the kind of improvements that are needed. Beaumont has good people. It has a food scene that punches above its weight, especially if you love Cajun and Creole cooking. The proximity to Louisiana gives the city a cultural flavor that is unique in Texas. But when you add up the crime, the flooding, the air quality, and the economic struggles, Beaumont is a tough sell for anyone choosing where to plant roots in Texas. And if you are still watching after crime, floods, and toxic air, congratulations, you are tougher than Beaumont. Subscribe, because the top 5 on this list is where it gets really ugly. Lubbock is a city of about 264,000 people sitting on the South Plains of West Texas. It is the home of Texas Tech University and the birthplace of Buddy Holly, and that is pretty much where the highlights end. Lubbock is flat. Not rolling hills flat, not gentle prairie flat, pancake flat. You can see for miles in every direction, and there is nothing to see. The landscape is cotton fields, dirt, and sky. That is it. The wind is relentless. Lubbock is one of the windiest cities in Texas, and when that wind picks up dust from the surrounding farmland, you get haboobs. Actual dust storms that roll through the city and turn the sky brown. If you have never experienced one, imagine someone dumping a bag of sand on your car, your house, and your lungs all at the same time. The crime rate is another problem. For a city its size, Lubbock has an unusually high violent crime rate. The police department cleared all 15 murder cases in 2024, which is impressive, but the fact that there were 15 murders in a city this size tells you something. Property crime is also well above average. Car theft and home burglary are common complaints from residents. The city is isolated. The nearest major city is Amarillo, which is about 2 hours north, and Amarillo is not exactly a destination. Dallas is over 5 hours east, Austin is nearly 6 hours south. If you need to get somewhere, you're either driving a very long time or flying out of Lubbock-Preston-Smith International Airport, which has limited routes. Texas Tech brings life to the city. Game days are electric, the college bar scene is active, but if you're not a student or a die-hard Red Raiders fan, the university atmosphere does not really translate into quality of life for the average resident. Lubbock is affordable. Median home prices are around $200,000, but affordable does not mean desirable.
The combination of isolation, dust storms, flat terrain, and above-average crime makes Lubbock a place that a lot of Texans themselves avoid. The people who love Lubbock really love it, but they're a specific breed, and if you are not one of them, you're going to feel it fast.
Amarillo sits in the Texas Panhandle, population about 200,000. And the first thing you need to understand about Amarillo is how alone it is. The nearest major city in any direction is hours away. Oklahoma City is about 4 hours north, Lubbock is 2 hours south, Albuquerque is nearly 5 hours west, Dallas is over 5 hours southeast. You are in the middle of the Great Plains, and the Great Plains do not care about your comfort. The weather in Amarillo is genuinely extreme. Summers hit 100 degrees, winters drop below freezing with ice storms and occasional blizzards. The wind blows constantly. Amarillo averages around 14 miles per hour of sustained wind, which does not sound bad until you live with it every single day for years. It gets into your head. Spring brings severe weather season. Tornadoes are a real threat in the Panhandle. Amarillo sits right in the southern end of Tornado Alley, and every spring, residents watch the sky and check the weather apps with a level of anxiety that people in other parts of the country do not understand. The city has a drug problem that has been well documented. Amarillo has been identified as a corridor for drug trafficking moving through the Panhandle along Interstate 40. Drug-related crime affects property crime rates and contributes to a sense of unease in certain neighborhoods. The economy is based on agriculture, meat packing, and energy. The feedlots surrounding Amarillo are massive operations, and on certain days when the wind blows the right direction, you can smell them from miles away. That smell is part of daily life for some residents. It is not something you get used to, it is something you learn to tolerate. Amarillo has the Big Texan Steak Ranch, where you can try to eat a 72-ounce steak for free. It has Palo Duro Canyon, which is genuinely stunning and one of the most underrated natural attractions in Texas. But a good steak and a nice canyon do not make up for the isolation, the weather, the wind, and the drug problems. Amarillo is a place people pass through on their way to somewhere else, and there is a reason for that.
Waco is a city of about 142,000 people in central Texas, sitting right on Interstate 35 between Dallas and Austin. And Waco has spent the last decade trying to reinvent itself. Chip and Joanna Gaines turned the Magnolia brand into a national phenomenon. The Silos, the Magnolia Table Restaurant, the home renovation empire. Tourists pour in from all over the country to visit, and that has brought real money and real energy to parts of downtown Waco. But there is a version of Waco that the Magnolia crowd does not see. The city has deep economic divides. The poverty rate in Waco is significantly above the state and national average. Thayer University sits in the middle of the city and creates a bubble of wealth and activity, but step outside that bubble and the reality changes fast. East Waco in particular has struggled with poverty, neglect, and disinvestment for decades. Crime is a serious concern. Waco's violent crime rate is above the state average. Right next door is Beaumont, a small city that consistently ranks as one of the most dangerous places in Texas per capita. The two communities are essentially connected, and the crime does not respect city limits. Waco also carries a historical weight that no amount of shiplap can cover up. The 1993 Branch Davidian Siege, where a 51-day standoff between federal agents in a religious compound ended in a fire that killed 76 people, including 25 children, happened just outside the city. In 2015, a shootout between rival biker gangs at a Twin Peaks restaurant in Waco left 9 people dead and 18 wounded. These events do not define everyday life in Waco, but they are part of the city's story, and they shaped how the rest of Texas and the country views this place. The cost of living is low. The Magnolia effect has brought new businesses and foot traffic. Thayer provides jobs and culture. But the underlying economic struggles, the crime rates, and the sharp divide between the tourist Waco and the real Waco make this a city where you need to do your homework before committing. Drive down the pretty streets near the Silos and then drive 10 minutes east. You will see 2 different cities, and only one of them is on Instagram. But both of them are on this channel. Subscribe if you want the full picture, not just the pretty one.
Port Arthur is a city of about 55,000 people on the Gulf Coast of southeast Texas, right next to Beaumont. And if Beaumont is bad, Port Arthur is worse. This city has been in decline for decades, and the decline has not stopped. The economy is built on oil refineries. The Motiva refinery in Port Arthur is one of the largest in the United States. These facilities provide jobs, but they also surround the community with industrial emissions that have raised serious health concerns for years. The air quality in Port Arthur and the surrounding area is among the worst in Texas. Residents have reported higher rates of respiratory illness and cancer in neighborhoods adjacent to the refineries. Environmental justice advocates have been sounding the alarm for decades, but meaningful change has been slow. Hurricane Harvey in 2017 devastated Port Arthur. The city received over 26 inches of rain in 24 hours. Entire neighborhoods were underwater. The damage was catastrophic, and many residents never came back. The population has been declining steadily since well before Harvey, but the storm accelerated the exodus. The poverty rate in Port Arthur is staggering. Nearly a third of the population lives below the poverty line. Median household income is well below the state average. The housing is cheap, but much of it is in flood-prone areas next to industrial sites. The infrastructure is aging and underfunded. Roads, drainage systems, and public facilities all need investment that the city cannot afford. Crime adds another layer. Port Arthur's violent crime rate is significantly above both the state and national averages. The combination of poverty, lack of opportunity, and environmental hazards creates a cycle that is extremely difficult to break. Port Arthur is the hometown of Janis Joplin. That is a fun fact. But Janis Joplin left Port Arthur as soon as she could, and that tells you everything you need to know.
And Humble is a community of about 15,000 people just north of Houston. And despite the small population, Humble has the dubious distinction of having one of the highest overall crime rates in the entire state of Texas. The numbers are staggering. The total crime rate is over 300% above the national average. Property crime is the biggest issue. Car theft, home burglary, shoplifting, package theft. Residents describe it as constant and exhausting. The chance of being a victim of property crime in Humble is roughly 1 in 9. That is not a typo. 1 in 9. Violent crime is also a major problem. The murder rate in Humble is the highest per capita on this list. Aggravated assaults and robberies are well above state averages. Part of the problem is Humble's proximity to Houston. It sits right on the edge of the Houston metro area, and crime does not stop at city limits. The spillover effect from Houston's northeast corridor, one of the highest crime areas in the greater Houston region, directly impacts Humble. The city is also flood-prone. Like most of the Houston metro area, Humble sits on flat coastal plain that does not drain well. Heavy rain events, which happen regularly along the Gulf Coast, can flood streets and neighborhoods quickly. Harvey hit Humble hard, and the risk has not gone away. There are nice pockets of Humble. The Mercer Botanic Gardens are beautiful, some of the newer subdivisions on the outskirts are well maintained, but the crime statistics are hard to argue with. Humble is a place where you lock your car doors, check your security cameras daily, and never leave packages on the porch. If that sounds like a lifestyle you want, Humble is available. If not, keep looking. And if you have made it to number 2 on a list of places you should never move to, you are clearly someone who does their research. Hit subscribe. I cover Texas every single week, and what is coming next might change your entire relocation plan. Donna is a small city of about 17,000 people in the Rio Grande Valley at the southern tip of Texas, and according to the most recent data, Donna has the highest violent crime rate of any city in the state, 351% above the Texas average. Let that number sink in for a moment. The city struggles with poverty at levels that are hard to comprehend in one of the wealthiest countries in the world. Over 35% of the population lives below the poverty line. Median household income is far below state averages. Educational attainment is low, economic opportunity is limited, the job market is thin and heavily dependent on agriculture and government services. The violent crime breakdown is dominated by aggravated assaults.
Donna recorded over 1,500 assault incidents per 100,000 people. Robbery, rape, and property crime are also significantly above state and national averages. The city has no murders in the most recent reporting year, which is genuinely good news, but the overall level of violence and crime makes daily life in Donna feel precarious for many residents. The Rio Grande Valley as a region faces unique challenges. Proximity to the Mexican border brings economic benefits through trade, but also brings complications related to drug trafficking and smuggling that affect communities throughout the valley. Donna is not unique in facing these issues. Cities like Alamo, Mission, and Pharr all deal with similar problems, but Donna's numbers are the worst in the state. Housing in Donna is extremely cheap. You can buy a home for under $100,000, but cheap housing exists for a reason, and in Donna, the reason is clear. The people who live here are resilient. They are families who have been in the valley for generations. This is their home. But for someone choosing where to move in Texas, the data speaks for itself. Donna is the most violent city in the state by the numbers. That is not an opinion, it is a statistic.
Before anyone comes for me in the comments, let me be very clear. Houston is one of the greatest cities in America. The food scene is world-class. The medical center is the largest in the world. The job market is massive. The diversity is incredible. NASA is here. The arts district is thriving. Houston is a city that gives you everything. But Houston is also the most dangerous large city in Texas, and it is not close. Houston recorded 320 murders in 2024. The violent crime rate is 12.4 per thousand residents. Property crime sits at over 62 per thousand. The northeast sector of the city accounts for about 42% of all violent offenses. Gang-related assaults increased 7% last year. Drug-related crimes jumped 15%. Vehicle thefts, about 25 per thousand, are concentrated in the downtown area. These numbers are real, and they affect real people every single day. The thing about Houston is that the city is enormous. It is the fourth largest city in America. The greater Houston metro area is bigger than some states, and within that sprawl, there are neighborhoods that are as safe as any suburb in the country. The Woodlands, Sugarland, Katy, Memorial, these are Houston-adjacent communities where crime is low and quality of life is high. But there are also areas of Houston where the crime statistics are genuinely terrifying. Sunnyside, 3rd Ward, parts of the 5th Ward, McGregor. These neighborhoods deal with violence, poverty, and neglect on a level that most people moving to Texas from out of state do not anticipate. Houston also floods a lot. The city is built on a coastal plain with clay soil that does not absorb water well. Tropical storms, heavy rain events, and hurricanes can turn entire neighborhoods into lakes. Harvey dropped 50 inches of rain on parts of Houston, and the city is still recovering. Flood insurance is essential and expensive. Traffic is another issue. Houston's highway system is massive, but the city was built around the car, and it shows. Commute times are long, road rage is real. The I-45, I-10, and the 610 loop during rush hour will test your patience and your sanity. So why is Houston number one on this list? Because it is the city that the most people move to in Texas, and it is the city where the most people make the mistake of moving to the wrong neighborhood. If you do your research and pick the right area, Houston is an incredible place to live. If you do not do your research, Houston will show you a side of Texas you were not prepared for. This is not a warning to avoid Houston, it is a warning to respect Houston. Know where you're going, know what neighborhoods to avoid, and do not assume that cheap rent in a nice-looking apartment means you found a hidden gem. In Houston, if the price seems too good to be true, there is a reason, and you will figure out that reason your first week.
Those are 10 places in Texas you should never move to, or at the very least 10 places you should research very carefully before signing a lease. Texas is an incredible state. The opportunity here is real. The growth is real, but so are the problems. Every state has places that do not live up to the dream, and Texas is no exception. If you are planning a move to Texas, do your homework. Visit before you commit. Talk to people who actually live there. And if you want more Texas content, subscribe. I break down the best and worst of the Lone Star State every single week. Drop a comment and tell me if your city made the list. And if it did, tell me if I got it right. I read every single one. We will see you in the next one.